very rare that we have somebody on this program who occupies the noon Eastern time slot on Peacock, because that's our old time slot. But we make an exception for this man because he's an outstanding individual on planet Earth. One of our favorites, talking fantasy football with a man who hosts the Fantasy Football Happy Hour weekdays at noon on Peacock. And every single NFL Sunday, he's the host of Fantasy Football Pregame with Matthew Berry at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. None other than Matthew Berry. How are you, sir? How you been?
I'm good. I'm hoping I'm doing the time slot proud, my friend.
You are. You know, like we have started a tradition together, you and I, for Peacock. You know, I appreciate you coming on. How have you been? You good?
I've been good. Life's great, man. Well, you know, we're in the thick of it.
We're in the thick of it, indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you? Let's just jump into it, because the running back market is just a fantasy football conundrum, to say the least.
Yeah.
How do you view Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott in a fantasy draft, Matthew?
You know, I like both of them. I think both of their upsides are limited, obviously, because of Breece Hall for Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott with Ramondre Stevenson. So let's take Dalvin Cook first. So I have Dalvin Cook at running back 26. So I'm as a mid-tier flex. And I think a good thing to look at is sort of go back to 2021 when Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback of the Packers and Nathaniel Hackett was his coordinator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the last time we saw those two together. And in that year, Aaron Jones for the Packers averaged about 17, 18 touches a game, and A.J. Dillon averaged like 11 to 13. And even though obviously Jones and Dillon are very different types of running back than Cook and Hall, I think that's right. I think in terms of usage, that's a pretty good barometer for us, because Hall is so explosive, and maybe Cook has lost a step, but still very effective. The reasons he's not in Minnesota is entirely financial. It's not about the effectiveness of his play. There's a reason why Aaron Rodgers, gave up some money from his contract, restructured his deal. He's like, hey, I'm not giving money back to the Jets. Like, get me some guys in here. And look, Michael Carter's and Bam Knight, they're nice players, but they're not Dalvin Cook. And so I think it makes sense to take some pressure off of Rodgers. This is an all-in year, obviously, for the Jets. And so I think you will see, look, it's going to be a good team. They're going to be in scoring position often. So that's my expectation is that I have Breece Hall as kind of a mid-tier RB2. I'm at 16 overall. And then I have Dalvin Cook at 26.
And Ezekiel, we have no idea. Or I'm just assuming Bill's going to use him as that inside the 10 battering ram, or somebody who's going to be an outstanding 4-minute offense guy. But so is Ramondre, right? I mean, it's your guess as good as mine what happens inside the 10 for the Patriots, right? Don't you think?
My expectation is you'll see a lot of Ezekiel Elliott, who is still very effective in short yards, still very effective at the goal line. Last year, in terms of among all the running backs that got the 25 most goal to go carries inside the 5-yard line as well. Among running backs with carries inside the 5-yard line last year, Ezekiel Elliott was 4th in the NFL in terms of touchdown success rate. Ramondre Stevenson was like 23rd. So, again, very effective short yardage back. But that's the role that Damian Harris had last year for the Patriots. And even with Damian Harris taking some of those touches away, Ramondre Stevenson was still a borderline, a top 10 fantasy running back. I think as it relates to Ramondre Stevenson, to me, this is actually the best case scenario for Ramondre Stevenson's fantasy value in this sense. The Patriots weren't going into the season with just like Pierre Strong, and they were always going to sign a veteran. And I think Ezekiel Elliott, who hasn't been used in the passing game that much at this stage of his career, that's a better sign for Ramondre Stevenson than Leonard Fournette, who they also had for a tryout, right? Stevenson's going to get all the passing down work and some of the touchdowns. Ezekiel Elliott's going to get the short yardage stuff. He's going to get some touchdown. I have Ramondre Stevenson, running back 15. I have Zeke at 40. So, look, in a scenario where Stevenson might get hurt, all of a sudden Zeke is a top 20 running back, but feels like Zeke is not going to get that much passing down work, and that Ramondre Stevenson is still going to get the majority of the running back touches in New England. So for Ramondre, I think it limits his upside. Zeke being there and taking touchdowns means that Ramondre is not going to be a top 5 fantasy running back. but his floor is still safe because the passing game work's going to go to Ramondre Stevenson. Are
you in the middle of a draft right now, Matthew? Are you?
I'm not.
Okay.
I am not.
Just want to make sure.
I'm in the middle of a crazy podcast run. I think I have, not including my own show, I have like 5 different interviews / podcasts that I'm doing a day.
I'm sure. I just want to make sure that, that you're not, every now and then in the middle of your answer, like sneaking a peek if you're on the clock or answering a text from somebody saying, I'm on the clock, help me out. I mean, your phone must be buzzing like crazy this time of year.
The phone does certainly blow up, and I am actually in a slow draft, so there is a chance, but I blocked it out. No, Rich.
Okay.
My attention is fully on Rich and the Rich Eisen Show.
I'm not saying your attention is split here. You're a multitasker of multitaskers, Matthew. That's for sure. But I'm just wondering if you're in a draft right now. So, right now, if somebody is going to be in a draft tonight, tomorrow, end of this week, and Jonathan Taylor is definitely going to be sitting there at the end of a first round. Let's say you've got an 8th. Overall, 9th overall, 10th overall pick. People are going to be staying away from Jonathan Taylor, but he's just going to be staring at you. How do you view him right now with everything that's going on?
I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I get bad vibes, and it sort of depends on what kind of fantasy player you are and what kind of, and how much this is. Let me put it this way: if you're in like a bunch of different leagues, and this league is a work league, and you're like, sort of, why not? Then sure, the upside of Jonathan Taylor is enormous. But if you're like in one league, if you're in, you're in the league that we opened the segment with, like Jared Goff, and you're like, hey, if I lose this league, I'm on a bus to Nome, Alaska, or whatever it is, right? And you need, like, I cannot screw this up. Like, there's just too much bad vibes around Jonathan Taylor. They've said, he can seek a trade. We'll see if he's successful in that. We still don't know if he can run. We just have no idea, Rich. Like, the guy hasn't been out there playing, and I don't want to accuse anyone of anything, but I don't know how serious this injury is. I don't know if he's just – there's clearly bad blood. Things have deteriorated, the relationship between the Colts and Jonathan Taylor. So, like, if I'm Jonathan Taylor, you're not like, hey, let me rush my rehab and get right out there, right? I mean, he's made it pretty clear he doesn't want to play for the Colts this year. He doesn't – so we'll see how it all plays out, but it certainly makes you nervous. So I certainly am not using a first-round pick on him. Into the second, third round, like that's when you start thinking about it. Like when you start getting into the Najee Harris range, like you're definitely taking Jonathan Taylor, but he makes me nervous. He's a phenomenally talented player, but the health is the biggest question to me. Is like, could you see a scenario, Rich, and I'm asking you, you cover the NFL as long and as well as anyone.
Thank you.
Could you see a scenario where he doesn't find a trade partner? He's there. He wants to accrue time, obviously, to help towards free agency. But he's just like, how you feeling, Jonathan? I don't know. I'm feeling a twinge still.
Yeah, my arm.
Ankle's a little tender.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I don't
want to accuse anyone of anything, but I'm just saying,
I know.
See a scenario where he's not rushing to get out on the field to play for a Colts team that might struggle this year.
I'm with you. I just don't know how that's going to play out. I'd be terribly concerned if my draft was right now. That's why in the so-called draft in my life that I want to win more than any other, we draft on opening night. We draft during the opening night game and just have some sort of a rule that just because somebody just scored a touchdown in the first quarter of the middle of our draft, we're not just going to draft that guy. That's the way we wait till the last possible second because there's too much up in the air. I've got Matthew Berry, the host of Fantasy Football Happy Hour on Peacock every noon Eastern, and then every NFL Sunday. You can check him out at 11 a.m. Eastern on Peacock for the Fantasy Football pregame. He'll be in Kansas City with the Football Night in America teammates to kick off the season. You can watch all of that right here on Roku. So let's jump into the draft strategy. Let's just say everybody follows the concept of running backs, wide receivers, and maybe top-tier tight ends like Kelsey all day long and hold out like Braveheart for that quarterback. Don't take Mahomes or Hurts or Allen or even Justin Fields too soon. Just keep on drafting running backs and wide receivers. Let's just say that's the strategy. And then you got guys that like Geno, Goff, even Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Sam Howell, the rookies, Kenny Pickett. maybe even Deshaun Watson sitting out there. Which quarterback, even with Tua maybe, do you trust? Who do you hold out for and go for? Jimmy G, that's the type of guy that I'm talking about. Who do you say that's the guy that can win your fantasy league with?
So if you're saying, I'll tell you, so it depends on sort of where you're at. Outside of the big names, so I love Trevor Lawrence this year, but I haven't quarterback 8. So if you want to go deeper than that, we can go deeper than that. I'll give you a couple of guys. So number one is Anthony Richardson. Again, Anthony Richardson, wide range of outcomes for him, and so you might want to, he's a better play in a one quarterback league where it's going to be easier to replace him. But the upside on Anthony Richardson is so massive. You think about Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson's rookie year, both of whom still need to develop as passers. And each of those guys in their rookie year were top 9 fantasy quarterbacks on a points per game basis. And so I think Richardson has that upside. Now, they need to design some runs for him, but Jalen Hurts under Shane Steichen was a top 2 fantasy quarterback in both years that they played together on a points per game basis. So massive upside with Anthony Richardson. And by the way, if the Jonathan Taylor thing plays out in a negative way and we don't see Taylor on the field for the Colts for one reason or another, effectively, you would think Anthony Richardson becomes their goal line back. But I'll give you one other guy,
yes,
which
sir.
is, how about Jared Goff? Friend of the show, friend of the show, Jared Goff. But I mean, the thing about Jared Goff is he is really, really good when he plays indoors, right? Like last year when he played at home, just to give you an example.
Yes, sir.
21 fantasy points per game, 274 yards per game. He was nothing short of fantastic. Well, 7 of his final 8 games this year, fantasy playoff time, are in a dome. He's got a December 30th game at Dallas, which is a retractable roof, but it's December 30th. It's going to be, he's going to be in a dome for 7 of his final 8 games. This is a guy who last year was top 5 in touchdown passes, top 5 in completion rate on deep passes, had 6 different games with 20 or more fantasy points that was tied for the 5th most among quarterbacks. And he's going his QB 14 or 15. And so I think having Ben Johnson back as his offensive coordinator and having that offensive line, I think one thing that's really underrated about Detroit is that's one of the best offensive lines in football. It's a really good offensive line. And when Jared Goff has time, he's really good. He's really good. So I think Goff is a very underrated fantasy option this year.
I'm stroking my beard. You can't see. Chris Brockman's stroking his beard. He doesn't have one. So that's a fascinating stat. So then give me the quarterback, even in a PPR league, that you would take over a wide receiver too, or a running back that can catch out of the backfield, where you're just like, this quarterback is too damn two-way of a threat for me to let sit on the board and keep on amassing wide receivers and running backs. Who'd you pull the trigger on that?
For me, it's the big 4. So it is it's Jalen Hurts, it's Josh Allen, it's Patrick Mahomes, and it's Lamar Jackson. Those are the 4. I think Herbert has a big year, and I think Justin Fields obviously tremendous upside there as well. But those 4, and Burrow, of course, obviously Joe Burrow. Can't forget Joe Burrow. I have Joe Burrow at 5.
Mm-hmm. You take those guys over a wide receiver 2, or maybe even a borderline wide receiver 1, or right? You do that?
It all depends on sort of how your draft board falls. I don't like to go into a draft saying I've got to do this. In my first 2 rounds, I'm definitely going running back, or I'm definitely getting a tight end by round 3, or
yes.
I'm definitely waiting on a quarterback until round 8, or what.
Right.
I don't like to go in with any of those rules. I have my ranks, and I'm a big best player available. Let the draft fall to you. Mm-hmm. I was in a draft the other day, and I didn't expect to go wide receiver, but that's how it started because I got Tyreek Hill, and then CeeDee Lamb fell to me in the 3rd. CeeDee Lamb fell to me in the 2nd, and Devontae Adams was there in the 3rd.
What? Devontae Adams in the 3rd? Who are you?
Yeah, I was on the pick, and it's the scoring is a little bit weird. I was the 3rd on the but yeah, it was. Is that
a 3-team league, and it's like you're like Kramer in the dojo with the children? What is that? Come on.
For whatever reason, Devontae Adams just fell, and so it's a 12-team league too. It was a super flex league, and so anyway, but I actually think I started Mahomes, and then Hill, Lamb, Adams. And so it's just, but the point is like it just,
okay.
You never know, right? It's like my point is like just for whatever reason that league, people just don't like Devontae Adams. They're worried about Garoppolo. It was an early draft. Maybe the Garoppolo injury had come out and Adams had a toe thing or whatever. But like, you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying is to let the draft come to you. So I wouldn't go in and say I definitely would take a quarterback over this or this. But if you're asking me who are quarterbacks that are worth reaching for, that if you want to go elite, those four.
Okay.
I think the big three plus Lamar Jackson and a Todd Monken offense. He's gotten paid with Beckham and Bateman back and Zay Flowers. We saw him last night. He looked great. Obviously, Mark Andrews is such a superstar. So I think that's going to be a really, really exciting offense to watch.
All right, I've got time for one last question. Chris, you want to ask it? I'll give it to you.
Yeah, Matthew. How early is too early to take Bijan Robinson, like say third overall?
Yeah, I mean, I have him lower. I have him as a first rounder. He's absolutely a first rounder. But this is my advice to you and to everyone: is like I get versions of this question all the time. Like I have a third pick, and I really want Bijan Robinson, but I know you have him at 8. Is that too early? And the fact is like, listen, if you want Bijan,
take him.
He's not coming back.
He ain't. No, get him.
You know what I mean? So like, take the guy. It's your team. It's your guys. We play this for fun. And the truth is that the minute the games start, all the rankings are out the window anyway.
Yeah.
So, you're not losing your league because you drafted Bijan Robinson at 3 instead of 8 or whatever. Draft Bijan Robinson. He's going to be awesome. He's going to be awesome this year.
Yeah, I know.
If that's the guy you want, go get him.
I have a third overall pick, too, and I know why you're asking that, Chris. And you're not afraid of Jamar Chase getting Trevor Siemian thrown to him for a couple weeks? You're not afraid of that? Like, that's not concerning to you? At all? Yeah.
No.
Okay. Jamar Chase.
No.
Ride or die.
I think I could throw to Jamar Chase and he could get 1,500 yards. Jamar Chase. He's amazing. Jamar Chase, by the way, a proud investor of FantasyLife.com. Fantasy Life, my news,
your newsletter.
My startup. So I got to give a shout out to my investor, Jamar Chase.
And it says here a successful daily newsletter. So kudos to your copywriters. You're founder of Fantasy Life, your daily newsletter. I look forward to seeing you on NBC all season long. Congrats on everything going on with you, man. Congrats on everything.
Thank you, my friend. It's always a pleasure. It's been great here at NBC. I'm trying to do the noon Peacock time slot proud.
You're doing great.
Carry on the tradition, and listen, you have my cell.
Yep.
So Rich, text me if I can be of help.
I will do that. Look for that text on opening night. You might be on the air, and I'll be like, "Hey, man, I'm on the clock." But you're a multitasker. Thanks for the time. You be well, Matthew.
Thanks, guys.
Matthew Berry, everybody. At Matthew Berry, TMR.
Talented Mr. Roto.
Talented Mr. Roto from way back in the day. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.